Hey, welcome to the Dropship Podcast, another tactical Tuesday episode. Starting without warning for John here to hop in. If you're not joining us on video, you should be able to see these podcasts on YouTube now. If you'd like to see the beautiful faces of John and myself, we both have faces for radio, just fair warning. But we'd love to have you over there if you want to check that out. But today we are going to talk about how do you handle refunds and returns in your dropshipping business. This is a question we get all the time. And I would imagine before you've started, or even when you've started, this might be a little confusing, right? And I can imagine this is a reason to be like, I'm not sure if I want to do that. Where am I going to put this stuff if I have to take it back to myself? So let's break this down to the simplest terms, John. Maybe provide some examples of what you've had to do or what I've had to do. And then, I've got a couple ideas here too of like creative things that you can do.
Yeah, look, and I think it's important to say a lot of people come to this and they think that that refunds and returns are going to be a big problem, when you're dropshipping, right? Because obviously you don't have your own warehouse or anything like that. And so, yeah, I can totally get why somebody who's just starting out might think that, have this in the back of their mind. I want to say in my experience with high ticket products, the refund rate or the return rate is way lower than what you see as an e-commerce industry type of average. And I think that's partly because, when people are buying high ticket products, they go through much more of a customer journey and a process and research and all of that sort of thing before they buy the product. It's a much bigger commitment. And so people actually want to keep that product. They want it, right? So you don't get a lot of people who are like, they get the product and they're like, yeah, like I just don't want that, so I'm going to send it back. I think people tend to, or like, it doesn't fit. Like, when you get a t-shirt and you're like, it doesn't fit, I'm just going to send it back sort of thing. For apparel companies, your return rate might be like 5% or something like that, or it might be anywhere up to 40% for some brands, right? And so that's not the high ticket dropshipping thing. I think in any of my businesses, it's been way less than 1%. I don't know. What have you seen, Ben? Do you reckon that's about right for you?
Yeah, probably under 1%. Like it's pretty minuscule. It does happen, right? Sometimes products just don't work, or you get a Karen or whatever the male equivalent of a Karen is. Like there's just some people who, just want to be a hassle. But John's right. Like we're selling things high ticket. So it's not just a impulse purchase that you're making, laying in your bed on your phone, scrolling social media, where you're more likely to get that and be like, oh, this is junk, likely something shipped from China junk. And you're like, I want to return this. This is terrible. Or alternatively, apparel is a big offender here as far as, I think 5% is low. I work with somebody who has one of the lower ones and he's at like 13%. So that's a lot. I can't imagine having to deal with that. Now, of course, it does depend on your audience too, right? I've worked with, again, I've said this before, middle-aged males with extra money. I don't think we had a return at all in that company. Whereas I've worked with older folks with, limited supply of on the finance side, and they were more likely to charge back, to refund, to return. And I do think, sorry, ladies, but I think ladies are more likely to return things than men as well. I know certainly when things need to be returned in my house, my wife's making those returns. And even if it is me, hey, honey, can you take care of this for me? It's just, I don't want to deal with that hassle personally. And so think about if someone's ordering a bigger item too, right? Like, I'm sitting at a standing desk, right? If you sold standing desks, that's a lot to try to figure out how you're going to get this thing returned too. So you probably, like you said, done a lot of research on this, really made sure you're buying the product that you want. Hopefully a beautiful dropshipping store from one of our students that gave them all the information they need, showed them the way to make that purchase so that they're not having buyer's remorse when it shows up at their house.
Yeah. And so I want to say as well, there's kind of three main reasons why you're going to get somebody to request a return, right? So it's going to be there's something wrong with the product, like it's a defective product. They want to return it. It doesn't work, something manufacturing or something like that. Two, it's going to be there was an issue like it was damaged in shipping or something like that, right? You get that. And three, like people are going to might want to change their mind. So there's nothing wrong with the product. It came fine. It was delivered fine. They just go, for some reason, I don't want this anymore, right? Maybe I maxed out my credit card and I need to pay it back. I don't know, whatever it might be, right? So in the first two of those situations, I think it's important to say like you've got usually an easy way to address that. So if there's something wrong with the product, like a manufacturing defect or something, that's going to be on your supplier, right? Your supplier will have a process in place for them to get that product back and replace it with one that actually works. Or there's going to be a warranty that covers the product. Great thing about high ticket products, generally they always come with a warranty, right? So if they're defective or something's not working, the customer can send it back. They can have it replaced. They can swip it over, and it's not going to cost you anything. Generally, in that scenario, you might have to manage a bit of the customer service and the backwards and forwards, but really it's just going to get swapped out nice and easy. And it's not going to be too much of a headache. Similarly, if something's damaged on the way to the customer or in shipping, it can be a little bit more to deal with there. But once again, usually there's going to be some easy ways for you to fix that, either via the shipping company or with the help of your supplier, depending on who arranged the shipping. And once again, that's not going to be something that leaves you out of pocket in any major way. The third one, which is the customer change of mind, this is probably where things get a little bit trickier in some cases, and you might have to get a bit more creative.
Yeah, you have to remember, we're dealing with real brands here, right? So sometimes people listening to this come from that other world of drop shipping where they're like, well, this is just some factory who's not going to take this thing back. I'm going to have to take it into my house. We're working with real brands here, real brands you've heard of, who have built a brand, who have built a reputation. They have warranties on their products. They have a system in place, a process in place for what happens when a defect happens or someone would like to return it. Likely they've already given you that documentation saying, if you want to return an item, here's what that looks like. We'll take it back. You're going to have to cover shipping. There's probably some small restocking fee as well. That's definitely negotiable, by the way. And you can decide, am I going to pass that on to the customer, or am I going to eat that cost as a part of doing business, which sometimes you will have to, right? Sometimes you'll have to take the L and just move on. But for the most part, these processes are outlined if you're working with a local brand, someone who's in your vicinity. They've already solved all this stuff, and you sign that away when you sign the contract with them of like, here's how we're going to work together.
Yep, absolutely. So yeah, and look, I mean, sometimes as well, you can sort of stick to whatever returns policies your supplier has, but sometimes you can go a bit further than that as well. So I mean, something I certainly have done in quite a few of my businesses is, because I've been able to, and not to say that this is something you have to do, but your returns policy or your refund policy is part of your offer to the customer. So it's part of the big picture that they're considering when they're purchasing from you, right? Particularly when it's high ticket, people are saying, I'm going to spend $5,000. How am I protected from a risk? Like, what's my risk protection here if I do need to send it back? Not that I want to, but what if I did have to send it back? They think about this either consciously or subconsciously. And so what you're going to do for them to give them that protection is part of your offer. And we're going to talk about creating an offer in an upcoming episode. So I won't go too far into this right now. Stay tuned on that. But people may compare you to your competition on some of these points, like shipping, refunds, returns, etc. So certainly something I did that I feel made a difference in sales in some of my businesses in the past was to offer a better returns policy than my competition, who often had almost nothing discernible. Promote that on my website quite heavily. And I would actually manage more of the returns process myself. So in some cases, in that instance, I would actually take the products back to my place or a place that I owned or rented, and then hold them myself. So basically hold that stock and then move that product on again when I sold it the next time, rather than reordering it from my supplier. And so not everybody can do that. That might be a bit more difficult for you, either from a space perspective or whatever, but I think doing something along those lines can certainly give you some marketing advantages.
So I'm going to tell you what I would do and use some experience, and then also tell you why I would do it. Because at first you're going to be like, I don't know about that, right? So in a business I was part of, we decided, even though our suppliers told us there would be a 20% restocking fee, and we used to have that on our site, we would say, great, return, 20% restocking fee. Trust me, that doesn't look great to your customers. We decided to go with just no hassle returns. You want to return it? Great. We'll take a return. 30 days, whatever. Don't worry about it. And there was some pushback between the partners and myself, including myself, where we're like, wow, this could really backfire. But what we relied upon is, I'm going to use baseball as a reference. So there is a lot of advanced metrics in baseball, and one of them is called expected batting average. So if a guy is at the plate and he is just hammering the ball, he's hitting everything on the screws, but he's currently experiencing bad luck, you'll see that in his expected batting average. So he knows if he just keeps doing the right thing, that over time his batting average will regress or progress back to what his expected batting average should be. He's going to also, just like he's having 100 at bats where he's hitting screaming line drives right at somebody, he's going to have 100 bats where those screaming line drives find the field. And so I would encourage you to think about this the same way in your business. Like, even if you're cringing a little bit right now saying no hassle refunds, that might mean 3 or 4 people over the next month I have to pay out of my pocket. Yes, that might be true, but over the next 6 months, now you don't pay any, right? And so I would say over time, a more lenient policy is actually going to benefit you in the long term in increased sales. And yes, you will have increased returns and refunds, but over time, the trajectory of your business is going to grow so much that it's not going to matter. Like, you doing the right thing is actually going to serve you in the long run. So hopefully I didn't confuse you with expected batting average or any other StatCast baseball metrics that I could definitely talk about all day long. But do the right thing. And if you can manage to weather the storm in the beginning that may come or it may not come, you might have the first 6 months where everything's landing out in the field, right? And then you might have 6 months where you're hitting screaming line drives at the shortstop or the left fielder or whatever, right? However, whatever order that comes in, if you're prepared for that, if you know over the long term this is going to result in more sales, this is going to result in more word of mouth marketing, which is going to result in even more sales by doing the right thing, then I would encourage you to take that path. We saw that in that business when we made that change. Yes, returns and refunds did increase, but our sales increased exponentially. As John said, it improved our offer. People would go to our competitors and see their return policy and their refund policy, and then they'd come to our site and be like, oh, I don't even need to worry about this. Of course I'm going to go with these people.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's definitely, that's gold. It's great. And certainly, I mean, if you do any sort of just marketing, like how to sell stuff, like if you learn anything from any of like the masters of this sort of thing, one of the core principles of marketing is you have to provide your customers some sort of risk protection in a transaction, right? You can't say to somebody, pay me money and it's all on you if something doesn't work out, right? If that's your approach, you're going to sell very little, because why would somebody do that? Why would another person enter into that transaction? So it can feel like a challenge for dropshipping. I get it, but I seriously think this is not something people need to be, super worried about if you're thinking about getting into high ticket dropshipping.
And I'm trying to think back to why would this pain point come up? Why do we get this asked so often? And it honestly, it takes me to mindset. It takes me to someone who has a fear of failure before they've even started, and they're trying to find something to justify a reason they shouldn't take this action. And so this is one of probably 50 things that are going to pop into your head. And hopefully John and I have relieved you of some of this stress. Like, it's not that big a deal, right? First off, we're in high ticket dropshipping. If you make 4 sales in your first month, that's pretty good. That's doing pretty good, and you're going to make a decent amount of money on that. And it's going to be like it's not like you're selling 100 products a day. So at the end of the month, you've sold 3,000 or whatever the math is there. Sorry, I don't do public math. But if you sold that many, then you're going to have a lot of returns and refunds. Like for us, 10 sales, 25 sales, 30 sales. That's a big month in high ticket dropshipping. And so your odds of having returns and refunds in there is just not good. And if you do, I promise you, there's things that you can do. Number one, you can bring, have it go back to the supplier. They'll take care of you, right? That's number one. Number two, if you have the opportunity to get one of your products in your hands, you should jump all over that, and you should pull out your iPhone and start taking videos and put them all over YouTube. Here's the review from this business. Here, take many different photos of the product and have someone remove the background so that you have unique photos to your website. Sell it open box if you need to recoup your money. There's a lot of things that you can do with this product, and you should be thrilled that you have the opportunity to have one in your hands, hopefully at minimal cost as you resell this thing as an open box item. But getting it in your hands is going to allow you to understand your product more. It's going to allow you to take unique pictures. It's going to allow you to take unique videos. There's a lot of things that you can do with this product, let alone if you can eat that cost and you can go give it away and make some sort of viral news story out of how you donated this product. That's going to get you more sales than anything you've ever done in the past for that kind of money. So those are just a few ideas of what you could do with this product. Hopefully it alleviated some of the pain in your mind of like, I can't do this because what happens if somebody returns their standing desk and I got to put it in mom's garage while I'm in the basement? I don't know what your fear is, but hopefully this podcast alleviated it.